the room decides your value before you speak. The thing is, you're not being overlooked by accident, you're being filtered out. Machiavelli studied rulers, generals, and kings, and he saw exactly how power responds to presence. In this video, you'll expose 10 mistakes that silently kill your influence, and discover the Machiavellian mindset that flips the script. It starts with the first mistake: over-explaining simple things. You're asked a direct question, and instead of answering, you unravel a whole narrative. You stack on context, prefaces, soft disclaimers, justifications. Not because the answer requires it, but because deep down, you feel the need to earn your right to speak. This behavior doesn't make you clearer, it makes you invisible. It signals uncertainty. It reveals the subtle fear that your voice alone isn't enough. To powerful people, it sounds like noise. Like you're filling the space to prove you deserve it. And they don't have the time, or the patience, for verbal overcompensation. You may think, if I just explain it better, they'll get me. But they think, if he needs that many words, he doesn't believe himself. Machiavelli would have called it what it is: surrender in disguise. Because every extra word, every unnecessary explanation, is leverage handed away. Speak briefly. Speak like every word matters. And then stop. Let the silence reinforce your conviction. Don't assume they want more, make them earn more by asking. When you speak with restraint, your words carry weight. When you ramble, your value dissolves into the background. These aren't harmless mistakes. They're subconscious disqualifiers. To those who hold influence, they whisper, "He's not ready. He doubts himself. He can be ignored." And here's the part no one warns you about: in rooms where power moves fast, you don't get second chances. By the time you realize you've weakened your signal, the decision has already been made. Machiavelli understood this battlefield, one where dominance isn't declared, it's conveyed. Not through volume, but through posture, economy of words, and strategic silence. If you don't learn to use those tools, you'll be dismissed before your message even lands. The second mistake is speaking with apology in your tone. The damage often isn't in your words, it's in your delivery. You speak with ideas that might hold weight, but your tone empties them before they land. A rising inflection turns statements into questions. Your voice softens just when it should settle. You pad your sentences with nervous fillers like sorry, trying to sound casual or polite. But what actually comes through is uncertainty. To the powerful, this doesn't read as humility. It reads as someone unsure of their place, unconsciously asking for permission just to speak. You might believe you're being considerate, that you're keeping the tone light or making space for others. But what power hears is a person unsure of their own authority. They hear doubt. And power doesn't lean toward doubt, it ignores it. When time is limited and attention is selective, people filter fast. And the moment your tone starts asking instead of declaring, you've already been tuned out. Machiavelli never saw speech as a tool for agreement, it was a tool for influence. He understood that words don't carry weight unless the tone behind them is measured, steady, and in full command. Not theatrical. Not emotional. Not designed for applause. But sharp, slow, and self-contained. The kind of tone that doesn't seek approval, because it already assumes authority. So train your voice to move differently. Lower the pace. Strip the excess. Deliver each sentence as if it ends the conversation, not invites debate. And when you've said what matters, stop. Let the silence hold the floor. Don't rush to fill the gap. Let others feel it. Because the man who speaks without apology doesn't need to convince anyone. He lets stillness do the work. And when your tone no longer seeks permission, the room gives you presence by default. The third mistake: you enter rooms with your energy pointed inward. The first thing people feel about you has nothing to do with your words. It's your presence, or the lack of it. When a powerful man walks into a room, his awareness expands outward. He sees everything. He reads people. His posture claims space before he even speaks. But the weak don't expand, they shrink. They enter with eyes lowered, shoulders caved, energy coiled inward like they're hoping not to be noticed. Powerful people spot this instantly, and dismiss it just as fast. They don't even evaluate what you bring, because the way you carry yourself says you don't believe it has value. In their world, that's all they need to know. Because if you treat your presence like something small, something uncertain, the world will respond in kind. Appearances may be subtle, but they're strategic. They are the front lines of influence. If you disappear in the first moment, no one needs to oppose you, you've already disqualified yourself. The moment you walk in, you're being measured. Your posture, your movement, your gaze, they speak before your mouth opens. Your shoulders should enter first. Your head should stay level. Your attention should move outward, not retreat inward. The room isn't a place you hide in. It's your arena. So don't step in hoping to be seen. Step in like being seen is a given. If you want to go deeper into how public behavior shapes power, watch Public Actions to Avoid, 9 Advices by Machiavelli. It breaks down the mistakes that erase you in plain sight, and how to replace them with presence. The link is on the screen and in the description section. The fourth mistake is laughing too easily. Laughter, on the surface, looks harmless. But beneath it, it's a signal, a quiet agreement, a show of comfort, a way of saying, I'm safe. I'm not a threat. I want to belong. And in most social settings, that works. But in rooms where power is present, it does the opposite. Because power isn't looking for comfort. It's looking for weight. And the person who laughs too quickly, too easily, too often, especially when there's nothing truly funny, gives up more than just dignity. They give up position. Machiavelli would have seen this for what it is, a reflex of submission. The first laugh is often the first surrender. It signals eagerness to please, a willingness to bend, and an instinct to avoid tension at all costs. And those who understand power use that against you. They'll throw out comments with sharp edges, sarcastic, cutting, deliberately ambiguous, not to offend you, but to test you. To see what you'll do. They're not looking for your reaction. They're looking for your need. And the moment you laugh to smooth things over, to stay in their good graces, to keep the energy light, you've failed the test. You've shown them exactly where to place you. Not as an equal, but as someone who needs the room more than the room needs him. So don't laugh just to keep the peace. Don't smirk when something disrespects you. Go still. Let the moment hang. Let the discomfort stretch out around you like a silence no one dares interrupt. That tension, that unreadable stillness, that's where power lives. Because when people can't read you, they can't map you. And when they can't map you, they can't control you. Power respects what it can't predict. And sometimes, the strongest move you can make is no reaction at all. The fifth mistake is waiting to be included. You show up. You take your seat. But you hold back. You don't speak unless directly invited. You hover on the outskirts of conversations, waiting for someone to gesture you in. It might feel like caution. It might even feel respectful. But to the people who understand power, it reads as hesitation, and hesitation is fatal to presence. Because whether you realize it or not, that waiting says something. It says, I don't know if I belong here. I'll let someone else decide. And that alone is enough to make sure no one does. Machiavelli warned against dependence, not just in politics, but in behavior. When you wait for validation, you signal that your worth is contingent on someone else's approval. And in any hierarchy, that puts you at the bottom. Powerful people don't hover. They enter. They speak. Not loudly, not obnoxiously, but with certainty. They don't ask for space, they take it. Not forcefully, but confidently, because they understand a fundamental law of value. Real value doesn't wait to be invited. It assumes its place. So don't sit there wondering if it's your turn. Take the moment. Add something useful, then stop. Let your words hang. Let the silence carry what you just said. Because those who hesitate are quickly forgotten. But those who speak once, with clarity and weight, tend to echo long after the room moves on. Don't just listen. Signal back. Like if it struck. Subscribe if you're done being ignored. The sixth mistake is apologizing for your standards. You have lines, what you allow, what you expect, what you walk away from. But the moment someone questions them, you waver. You begin to explain, to soften the edges, to make your boundaries sound more flexible than they are. And just like that, what once held weight becomes negotiable. It doesn't matter if it's how you protect your time, who you choose to be around, or what kind of treatment you won't accept. When you act like your standards need justification, you make them look personal, emotional, subjective. In other words, weak. And in rooms where power is watching, weakness never commands respect. Machiavelli understood something modern minds forget. Standards aren't about virtue, they're about structure. They define your gravitational pull. And once you apologize for them, you tell the world they were optional all along. But if you hold them without explanation, without flinch or hesitation, they become something else entirely, unshakable law. So when you say no, don't pad it. Don't soften it. Don't explain it. Decline with calm certainty and move on. Let the weight of your silence do what your words never could. Establish boundaries as fact, not opinion. Because the moment your standards stop looking like preferences and start feeling like law, people stop testing them and start adjusting to them. So far, we've exposed the mistakes that weaken how you move, speak, and take space. But the next four cut deeper. These aren't surface flaws, they're identity leaks. The kind that decide whether you're taken seriously or forgotten completely. The next mistake is constantly seeking emotional safety in conversation. You enter the room already scanning for approval, seeking soft eyes, gentle tones, signals that it's safe to speak. Before your words form, you're reading the room. And as you speak, you adjust mid-sentence, watering down your opinions, retreating from anything that might create tension. It feels like caution, but at its core, it's a craving for emotional safety. Here's the Machiavellian truth: the man who fears conflict will always serve the one who doesn't. Real power doesn't need everything to feel good, it creates tension, holds it, and watches who can stand in it without flinching. It says what unsettles. It lets silence stretch. It doesn't clean up after discomfort, it uses it. When you're always smoothing the moment, you trade your presence for peacekeeping. You become the social janitor, tidying the energy while others hold the room. But influence doesn't come from being agreeable. It comes from being immovable. Let people feel uneasy. Let your words land without a smile. Let silence breathe, even when it burns. Because the moment others realize they can't move you, they begin to respect you. Not because they like you, but because you're solid. And that's where power starts. The eighth mistake is avoiding taking up physical space. You sit with your legs crossed, shoulders drawn in, hands still, body small. You tell yourself it's humility, but your posture tells a different story. What it really says is, I'm no threat. Don't notice me. And that message is received, loud and clear. Machiavelli understood that every room is an arena, and in arenas, your body speaks long before your voice gets the chance. Those who hold power don't just listen, they scan. And when they see someone tucked into the corner, posture folded in, presence minimized, they stop paying attention. Because no matter how sharp your ideas are, if your body hasn't claimed the space, your words won't land. Presence begins before language. Sit like you belong. Unfold your arms. Square your shoulders. Keep your chin level. Don't shrink under attention, let it rest on you like it's expected. Because when your body takes its place, your energy follows. You're no longer just occupying the room, you're anchoring it. The ninth mistake is over-identifying with good intentions. This one stings, because most people are sure their good heart will speak for them. They tell themselves, I didn't mean to come off weak. I meant well. But power isn't interested in what you meant. It reads what you signal. And if your signal says uncertainty, hesitation, or neediness, that's the only message that lands. Clinging to your intentions creates a dangerous blind spot. You expect people to see your depth, your thoughtfulness, your potential. But Machiavelli would have laughed, because goodness without perception is useless. Intentions are invisible. Signals shape reality. The powerful don't peer into your soul looking for the truth behind your words. They scan for behavior. And if that behavior says soft, uncertain, or approval-seeking, they don't ask why. They just move on. You're not seen as kind. You're seen as unready. Stop waiting to be understood for what you meant. Start owning how you're perceived. Adjust how you carry yourself, not just what you believe about yourself. Because in the real world, the ones who rise aren't the kindest. They're the ones whose presence doesn't ask to be seen, it insists on it. The final mistake and deepest flaw of all is treating influence like something to be earned. You've been taught that influence is something you must qualify for. That if you serve long enough, play it safe, stay agreeable, and earn enough goodwill, then maybe, eventually, you'll be taken seriously. You've been waiting for permission. Waiting for someone to hand you the right to be seen. But Machiavelli would offer a very different truth. Influence isn't earned, it's assumed. And if you assume it with enough certainty, it starts to shape how others see you. Power doesn't wait to be approved. It enters a room with posture, with conviction, with the quiet force of someone who's already claimed space. You haven't lacked power because you're weak. You've lacked it because no one taught you that presence doesn't come from trying harder or being nicer. It comes when you stop hiding. When you stop diluting. When your stillness says, I belong here without explanation. That kind of presence doesn't shout, doesn't seek applause, it moves as if the spotlight is expected. The moment you stop waiting for recognition, and start moving like someone who already owns it, everything changes. Not because you pushed harder, but because you stopped asking. Visibility was never meant to be granted. It was always yours to claim. That's what these 10 mistakes have done from the start, quietly removing you from the minds of people who could have respected you, empowered you, or opened doors. Not because you lacked value, but because your behavior told them not to look twice. You didn't fail dramatically, you disappeared subtly. And now that you see it, you can't pretend it was just good manners. It wasn't. You weren't blending in, you were erasing yourself. And the room? It never noticed, because rooms are designed to ignore what doesn't assert itself. If you want to be seen, stop hiding under humility. Stop leaking insecurity through politeness. Stop softening your edges to make others comfortable. Because the moment you drop these habits, the dynamic shifts. You don't just walk in, the room responds. People pause. Energy adjusts. Words are chosen more carefully. Not because you demanded respect, but because your presence left no alternative. Machiavelli understood, kings aren't crowned, they crown themselves. Through stillness, certainty, and unreadable intent. And if you've spent your life lowering your voice, waiting your turn, hoping someone will say, "Now it's your time," you've been following a script designed to keep you invisible. But that isn't humility, it's self-erasure. Because power doesn't seek what's polite. It moves toward what can't be predicted, moved, or easily dismissed. The man who doesn't explain himself. Who doesn't soften his edges. Who carries silence like pressure. Each of these 10 mistakes was a quiet surrender, a moment where you signaled, "I don't fully trust my own presence." But that ends here. This isn't about arrogance. It's about subtraction. You remove the parts that dilute you: apology, overexplaining, excessive gratitude, mimicry, the need to be liked. What remains is signal. Clean. Grounded. Unavoidable. When your presence is no longer compromised by fear, you don't enter the room, you shift it. You move with intent. Speak only when it matters. Let your silence do the heavy lifting. You don't echo others, you anchor them. You don't soften to fit in, you let discomfort shape the room. And when challenged, you don't react, you observe. Calm. Unreadable. Because real visibility isn't about being liked. It's about being noticed. Considered. Respected. Sometimes feared. And that doesn't come from charm, it comes from pressure. From volatility. From the quiet threat of being underestimated. So they pause. They watch. They adjust. Not because you asked, but because they had no choice. Never confuse being polite with being powerful. Your strength isn't in how agreeable you are, it's in how difficult you are to ignore. Strip away what weakens you. And what's left is the version of you they can't overlook. Ready to move different? Like, subscribe, and keep going with the Power is Design playlist. Power isn't given. It's built.